Hey guys, tonight we are drifting off to ancient Greece, specifically a sun-drenched hillside where the air smells of wild thyme and the turquoise Aegean Sea sparkles in the distance. Picture yourself there. You're barefoot, the warm earth grounding you, and the only sounds are the gentle bleating of distant sheep and the cicadas' drone. It's idyllic, really. Almost too idyllic. I mean, this is Greek mythology we're talking about. Things tend to go south pretty quickly, so statistically speaking, you probably won't survive this bedtime story. But hey, at least you'll be asleep when it happens, right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always cool to see where everyone's tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Close your eyes. Really close them. Imagine that soft Aegean breeze kissing your face. You can almost taste the salt in the air, can't you? You're standing on that hillside, overlooking a small, hidden grove. It's a sanctuary, untouched by the hustle and bustle of, well, whatever passed for hustle and bustle in ancient Greece. Probably just a lot of guys in tunics arguing about philosophy and olive oil. You notice a path winding down into the grove. It's overgrown, but still discernible. As you follow it, the air grows cooler, damper. The scent of wildflowers intensifies, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp moss and fertile soil. You hear the gentle trickle of water. It's a stream, hidden amongst the rocks, its water crystal clear. You could probably drink from it. I mean, I wouldn't, personally. Who knows what kind of ancient Greek cooties are lurking in there? But you could. This is the domain of Echo. Now, Echo wasn't always Echo Y. Back in the day, she was a nymph. A real chatterbox, apparently. The kind of person who could talk the ear off a donkey. Fun fact, donkeys were super important in ancient Greece. They were like the ancient Greek equivalent of a pickup truck. Reliable, hardworking, and probably smelled vaguely of manure. Echo had a job, you see. A very important job. She was basically Hera's distraction. Hera, queen of the gods, Zeus's wife, and possessor of a truly epic temper. Zeus, as you might know, had a slight wandering eye. Okay, a massive wandering eye. He was like the ancient Greek version of a celebrity with a paparazzi problem. Except the paparazzi were all nymphs and goddesses, and the scandals involved a lot more shape-shifting. So, when Zeus was off frolicking with, say, a swan, don't ask, Echo would keep Hera occupied with endless stories and gossip. She was a master of the art of the tall tale, a regular ancient Greek podcast host. She could spin a yarn about the price of figs that would keep you on the edge of your seat for hours. I'm not even kidding. But, as you might imagine, Hera eventually caught on. She wasn't stupid. She was a goddess, after all. And goddesses, especially scorned goddesses, do not appreciate being taken for fools. So Hera punished Echo. And this is where things get unpleasant. Hera cursed Echo. She took away her ability to speak first. Echo could only repeat the last words she heard. Imagine that. You can only parrot what other people say. It's like being stuck in a perpetual game of Simon Says. Except the stakes are your entire identity. Pretty brutal, right? I mean, I'd rather just get turned into a spider. Arachne had it rough, but at least she got to weave cool tapestries. Historians still argue about the exact motivations behind Hera's curse. Some believe it was purely out of jealousy and anger. Others suggest it was a power play, a way to silence a potential rival. Still others, the real fringe theorists, think Echo may have been involved in some kind of secret plot against Hera. Maybe she was slipping Zeus coded messages through her endless chatter. It's a bit far-fetched, but hey, it wouldn't be Greek mythology without a good conspiracy theory. Now, as you stand in this quiet grove, you can almost hear the faint echo of Echo's voice, repeating the last sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, the gentle murmur of the stream. It's a haunting sound, a reminder of her lost voice, her lost power. And it was in this very grove that Echo met Narcissus. Narcissus. Even the name sounds self-absorbed, doesn't it? He was breathtakingly beautiful. Like, stop you in your tracks, make the gods jealous beautiful. He was so gorgeous, in fact, that he made even the most seasoned nymphs and satyrs blush like teenagers at a One Direction concert. Okay, maybe not satyrs. They were probably just happy to have something to leer at. He was also completely uninterested in anyone else. He was the ancient Greek equivalent of a celebrity who only follows themselves on social media. He was convinced that no one was worthy of his attention, his affection, his everything. Now, you might be thinking, okay, he's just arrogant. There are plenty of arrogant people in the world. And you'd be right. But Narcissus wasn't just arrogant. He was cursed. Another curse. These ancient Greeks really loved their curses, didn't they? One of his admirers, a rejected suitor, prayed to the gods for revenge. And Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, heard his plea. She decided that Narcissus needed a taste of his own medicine. She decided he needed to understand what it felt like to be completely and utterly consumed by, himself. The mainstream historical view of the Narcissus myth is that it's a cautionary tale about vanity and self-obsession. But some scholars argue that it's also a commentary on the dangers of unattainable beauty, the pressure to conform to societal ideals, and the pain of unrequited love. It's even been suggested that Narcissus suffered from some sort of personality disorder. I'm not a doctor, of course. I just tell boring bedtime stories about ancient Greeks. Anyway, back to the grove. Echo saw Narcissus wandering through the trees. And, despite her curse, despite her humiliation, despite the fact that she probably should have known better, she fell in love. Hard. She was completely smitten. She was like a lovesick puppy, except instead of wagging her tail, she just repeated the last thing he said. Which, admittedly, probably wasn't very flattering. You can imagine the scene, can't you? Narcissus, strolling through the grove, admiring his reflection in a nearby pool. Echo, hiding behind a tree, desperately trying to catch his attention. He probably thought she was just some annoying woodland creature. And in a way, she was. A creature cursed to repeat the last words she heard, forever trapped in the shadow of her own voice. It's kind of sad, when you think about it. And we're just getting started. You're drifting now, the scent of wild thyme and sea salt clinging to your imagination. Remember that image of the sun-drenched olive groves we conjured earlier? Good. Hold on to that feeling of warmth as we wander a little deeper into the woods. You're walking along a mossy path, dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves. It's the kind of light that makes everything seem a little softer, a little less urgent. Birds twitter softly overhead, their songs weaving a gentle melody. You notice, tucked away in a small clearing, a spring bubbling up from the earth. The water is crystal clear, reflecting the sky like a tiny, perfect mirror. And near the spring, you see her. It's Echo. Now, before you conjure up images of some ethereal, shimmering being, let's get real. Echo is a nymph. And nymphs, in Greek mythology, they were everywhere. Think of them like the slightly less important, nature-loving cousins of the gods. They hung out in groves, near rivers, in caves, basically, any place that felt a little bit magical. They weren't immortal like the Olympians, but they lived for a ridiculously long time. Like, seeing several empires rise and fall long. Imagine the stories they could tell. Though, in Echo's case, she might just repeat yours back to you. You see, Echo had a gift. Or perhaps a curse, depending on how you look at it. She loved to talk. Oh boy, did she love to talk. It wasn't just chattering. It was full-blown, non-stop, verbal diarrhea. She could fill silences that didn't even exist. She'd probably be amazing at networking events. Or absolutely terrifying. Depends on your tolerance for small talk about the weather, I guess. You watch her now, footing about the clearing. She's chattering away to a squirrel, who seems less than enthused. It's twitching its nose and occasionally darting nervous glances towards the trees, probably plotting its escape. Honestly, you can't blame the poor thing. It's not that Echo was malicious, mind you. She was, in her own way, quite charming. She was beautiful, with long, flowing hair the color of autumn leaves and eyes that sparkled like the spring itself. But the talking was a lot. Think of that one friend who always has a story, and that story always has a tangent, and that tangent has a subtangent, and by the time they finally get back to the original point, you've completely forgotten what they were even talking about in the first place. Yeah, Echo was that friend. Now, here's a little historical tidbit for you. The ancient Greeks were really into oracles. You know, those mystical figures who could supposedly see the future? The most famous was the oracle at Delphi. People would travel from all over the Greek world to ask her questions about their lives, their fortunes, their love lives, basically anything they were worried about. And guess who sometimes helped out with crowd control at these oracles? Yep, nymphs. Imagine Echo working security at Delphi. Next, and while you're waiting, let me tell you about this amazing prophecy I overheard last Tuesday. Chaos. Utter chaos. You can almost hear her now, her voice a constant, melodic hum in the air. She's probably explaining to the squirrel the intricate details of her breakfast. Wild berries, of course, and how they compare to the berries she had last week, and the berries her mother used to make jam with. You get the picture. Here's a slightly more out there idea for you. Some fringe theories suggest that the stories of nymphs weren't just about pretty nature spirits. They were actually allegories for the sounds of nature itself. The rustling of leaves, the babbling of brooks, the echoes in the mountains, all personified as these chatty, elusive beings. Makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe Echo wasn't just a talkative nymph, but the very essence of echoes themselves. Deep, man. Deep. But her gift, or curse, is about to become a major problem. You see, Echo's incessant chatter eventually caught the attention of Hera, the queen of the gods and wife of Zeus. Now, Hera was, let's just say she had a slight jealousy problem, especially when it came to her husband's extracurricular activities. Zeus, being the king of the gods, had a reputation for, shall we say, appreciating the beauty of nymphs. A lot, and Hera, being the queen of the gods, had a reputation for punishing anyone who even looked in Zeus's general direction. She had a temper that could make a volcano blush. So, when Hera suspected Zeus was off gallivanting with nymphs again, she would often come down to earth to investigate. And who do you think she ran into every single time? You guessed it, Echo. Now, Echo, being the helpful, and, let's be honest, somewhat oblivious nymph that she was, would always try to strike up a conversation with Hera. She'd keep Hera talking, distracting her with endless stories and witty observations, giving Zeus plenty of time to escape. Oh, Queen Hera, what a divine chariot. Is that a new shade of gold? It really brings out the intensity of your gaze. And have you heard the latest gossip from Mount Olympus? Apparently, Aphrodite is thinking of getting a new hairstyle. Can you imagine? You can picture Hera tapping her foot impatiently, her eyes narrowed, trying to get a word in edgewise. But Echo just kept talking and talking and talking. Historians still argue about the exact motivations of Hera. Was it pure jealousy? A desire to maintain her power? Or perhaps a deep-seated insecurity about her own conversational skills? We may never know the full story. But what we do know is that Hera eventually got fed up. Like, really fed up. One day, after yet another round of Echo's nonstop chatter, Hera finally snapped. She realized that Echo wasn't just being helpful. She was actively deceiving her, buying Zeus time to hide his infidelities. And Hera, as you might imagine, did not take kindly to being deceived. So she cursed Echo, and it wasn't just any curse. It was a particularly cruel one, especially for someone who loved to talk as much as Echo did. Hera took away Echo's ability to speak first. From now on, Echo could only repeat the last words she heard. She was forever doomed to be an echo, a mere shadow of her former, verbose self. Imagine that. Imagine never being able to initiate a conversation, never being able to express your own thoughts and feelings, only being able to parrot back what others have already said. That's rough, buddy. You watch Echo now, still chattering away to the squirrel, oblivious to the doom that awaits her. You almost want to warn her, to tell her to shut up for 5 minutes and avoid Hera's wrath. But you can't. You're just an observer, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. And that, my friend, is the story of how Echo, the talkative nymph, lost her voice. A cautionary tale about the dangers of, well, maybe just knowing when to be quiet. Or maybe about the perils of crossing a jealous goddess. Or maybe just a reminder that sometimes silence really is golden. Now, let's move on to the next part of our story, where we'll meet a young man who's about to learn a very different kind of lesson. A lesson about the dangers of, well, let's just say he's a little too into himself. Alright, settle in a little deeper, friend. Let's talk about a goddess with a slight anger management problem. You're strolling through the sun-dappled woods, maybe humming a little tune. Something wordless, of course, since we're building suspense. You know, the kind of tune that gets stuck in your head all day? Is there anything more annoying? Seriously, it's like mental glitter glue. Anyway, you hear the rustle of leaves nearby. It's Echo, but something's off. She approaches you, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced with a sort of hesitant sadness. She opens her mouth to greet you, but instead of a bright, "Hello, lovely day for a stroll, isn't it?" all that comes out is, well, the last few syllables of your humming. She manages, her brow furrowed in frustration. You stop humming, naturally. Echo, are you all right? You sound Echo-y. I know. Low-hanging fruit. But I'm trying to lull you to sleep here, not win a comedy award. The truth is, Echo has run afoul of Hera, the queen of the gods, wife of Zeus, and possessor of a truly legendary grudge. You see, Zeus, well, he had a bit of a reputation. Let's just say fidelity wasn't exactly his strong suit. And Hera, being the goddess of marriage and childbirth, among other things, like, righteous fury, wasn't exactly thrilled with his extracurricular activities. Now, Echo, bless her talkative little heart, had a habit of distracting Hera with her endless stories whenever the queen was close to catching Zeus in his escapades with the wood nymphs. It's like having that overly chatty coworker who always corners the boss when you're trying to sneak out early on a Friday. You appreciate the intention, but the timing. Imagine Hera, the queen of Olympus, dressed in shimmering robes, striding through the forest, nostrils flaring, determined to catch her husband in the act. And there's Echo, suddenly appearing with a bright smile and a torrent of words about, well, anything and everything. The weather, the latest gossip among the dryads, the best place to find wild berries, anything to keep Hera occupied. It worked for a while, but Hera, being a goddess and all, eventually caught on. It wasn't just Echo's chattiness, it was the convenience of it all. She realized Echo wasn't just a friendly nymph. She was actively helping Zeus cover his tracks, and Hera doesn't take kindly to being played for a fool, especially not by a woodland nymph. So she cursed Echo. Not with death, mind you. Hera's punishments were often far more creative, more psychologically damaging, perhaps more annoying. Hera stripped Echo of her ability to speak first. She could no longer initiate conversation, no longer express her own thoughts and feelings in her own words. Instead, she was condemned to only repeat the last words spoken to her. She became, quite literally, an echo. You can see how this would be problematic. Try ordering a coffee when all you can say is, coffee, or please. It's a recipe for awkwardness. And imagine trying to explain to someone that you aren't mocking them. It's a conversational minefield. This curse is where the word echo comes from, of course. Did you know that narcissism also comes from this myth? Foreshadowing. That's the obvious etymological connection. But some linguists believe that the very concept of onomatopoeia, words that imitate sounds, might also be rooted in this ancient understanding of echoes. Think about it. Buzz, hiss, splash. They're all, in a way, echoes of the sounds they represent. Fringe theory? Maybe. Intriguing? Absolutely. The historical fact here is that Hera was a major deity in the Greek pantheon, worshipped throughout ancient Greece. Temples were dedicated to her, festivals were held in her honor, and she was considered the protector of marriage and women. It's interesting, though, that she herself had such a tumultuous marriage. The whole physician, heal thyself idea. Now, historians still debate the precise motivations behind Hera's actions in these myths. Was it purely jealousy? A defense of the sanctity of marriage? Or perhaps a power play, asserting her authority over the other gods and goddesses? Some scholars even suggest that these stories reflect the social anxieties surrounding female power and infidelity in ancient Greek society. It's all very complicated and makes for some very dry reading in academic journals. Trust me, I've been there. Anyway, back to Echo. You can see the distress in her eyes. She tries to explain, to apologize, to plead for your understanding, but all that comes out is a jumbled mess of repeated syllables. It's like trying to have a conversation with a broken record, or a very persistent parrot. You reach out to comfort her, but she shrinks away, ashamed and embarrassed. She can't even properly explain what happened. She's trapped in a prison of her own voice, or rather, the lack thereof. And this, my friend, is where things get really interesting. Because a cursed nymph, unable to speak for herself, is about to encounter someone even more self-absorbed. Someone who is about to find out that beauty, without empathy, is a very lonely thing indeed. So, take another deep breath. Let your eyelids get heavy. And prepare to meet Narcissus, a name that, even now, carries a certain sting. But before we get there, let's just linger here for a moment, in the quiet of the woods, with the whispering echo, a reminder that words, and the ability to use them freely, are a precious gift, and that sometimes the greatest punishments are the ones that silence us. All right, settling it nicely? Good. Let's drift into the story of Narcissus. You are strolling through a sun-dappled grove. The air is thick with the scent of wild thyme, and is that patchouli? Someone's been meditating nearby, clearly. You hear the gentle murmur of a stream, and as you round a bend, bam, there he is, Narcissus. Even knowing the story, even prepared, the sheer impact is a bit much. It's like stumbling upon a perfectly curated Instagram post in real life. This young man is, to put it mildly, ridiculously good-looking. You catch yourself thinking, wow, even I'm a little smitten, and I already know how this ends. He's lounging by the water, seemingly oblivious to the effect he has on, well, everything. Sunlight catches in his impossibly perfect hair, probably styled with sea salt spray, if we're being honest, and highlights the sculpted planes of his face. He's the kind of beautiful that makes you question your own life choices. Like, did you accidentally skip a compulsory beauty gene at birth? Should you have invested in more organic kale smoothies? The existential dread is real, folks. He's young, barely more than a boy, really. But there's a certain stillness about him. A quiet self-absorption that, in anyone less aesthetically blessed, would be profoundly annoying. But, you know those cheekbones. You notice the other creatures of the forest seem equally captivated. A deer pauses mid-graze, its large, liquid eyes fixed on him. Birds cease their chirping, momentarily silenced by his presence. Even the usually boisterous squirrels seem to have developed a sudden case of stage fright. It's like a Disney princess movie, except the princess is a dude and he's completely unaware of his enchanting effect. And here's the thing about Narcissus. He is utterly, completely, and devastatingly oblivious. Not in a charming, ah shucks kind of way. More in a, the universe revolves around me, and I haven't quite realized it yet kind of way. He's like a supermodel who genuinely doesn't understand why people stare. Or a tech bro who thinks his latest disruptive app is actually going to solve world hunger. The innocence is concerning. You watch as a young woman, not unlike Echo, attempts to approach him. She stumbles a little, her cheeks flushed, trying to find the right words. She probably rehearsed this in front of the mirror for hours. Maybe even wrote a little poem. Bless her heart. Narcissus barely glances her way. He offers a dismissive wave, his attention immediately returning to, well, himself. It's not even malicious. It's just indifference. Like she's a particularly persistent mosquito buzzing around his perfectly toned arm. Ouch. She retreats, crestfallen. You can almost hear her inner monologue. Was it the shoes? The hair? Did I use too much bronzer? The poor thing. You kind of want to give her a hug and tell her she's beautiful just the way she is. But, you know, time travel paradoxes and all that. This is Narcissus' MO. People, nymphs, mortals, woodland creatures, throw themselves at his feet, showering him with affection, gifts, and desperate pleas for attention. And he just doesn't care. He's like the ultimate commitment phobe, except instead of fearing intimacy, he fears not looking at himself for more than 5 seconds. It's interesting to note here that, while we often think of ancient Greece as this bastion of artistic and philosophical achievement, it was also a society deeply concerned with outward appearance. Think about it. The Olympics, the sculptures, the elaborate hairstyles, beauty was currency. And Narcissus? He was basically the Jeff Bezos of beauty. And speaking of beauty standards, here's a quirky little tidbit. Some fringe theories suggest that the myth of Narcissus might have been a cautionary tale about the dangers of excessive self-care. Like, maybe the ancient Greeks were warning us about the perils of spending too much time on your skincare routine. I'm only half joking. Imagine that being a genuine concern back then. Oh no, I've spent so long exfoliating. I've lost all sense of empathy. You see another suitor approach. This one a young man, equally smitten. Same result. A dismissive flick of the wrist, a barely there glance, and the poor guy slinks away defeated. It's a masterclass in emotional unavailability. He's the original ghoster, the king of seen messages. It's almost pathetic. All this beauty, all this potential for connection, wasted on, well, nothing. He's a walking, talking, perfectly sculpted void. You wonder what's going on inside his head. Is he lonely? Does he even realize the impact he has on others? Or is he simply incapable of seeing beyond his own reflection? Historians still debate the precise meaning of the Narcissus myth. Some see it as a commentary on vanity and self-obsession. Others interpret it as a warning against unrequited love. Still others argue it's a reflection of the ancient Greek preoccupation with beauty and the dangers of becoming consumed by it. You know, it's like trying to decipher the meaning of a modern pop song. Everyone has their own interpretation, and no one is really sure if there's any meaning there at all. Personally, you suspect it's a bit of all three. A cautionary tale wrapped in a pretty package, delivered with a healthy dose of ancient Greek shade. You watch Narcissus adjust his hair, preening in the reflection of the water. He's like a Greek god trapped in a never-ending selfie. And you can't help but feel a little sorry for him. Because, as you well know, this isn't going to end well. Echo is still out there, somewhere, whispering his name. And the gods, well, they have a way of making things interesting. Maybe it's time to move on before you get caught in the crossfire. You feel a nap coming on anyway. The rhythmic sound of the water is quite soothing. You are drifting through the woods now, the dappled sunlight warm on your face. The air smells of pine needles and damp earth, that earthy petrichor smell you only get after a light rain. Remember the Aegean breeze we talked about earlier? Imagine a hint of that too, just a suggestion of salt carried inland on the wind. It's very relaxing. You're not really you, of course, not the you who maybe just spilled coffee on your favorite pajamas. Tonight, you are Echo, and you are wandering, a little aimlessly, a little sadly, because, well, you're Echo. Your voice is still just a shadow, a prisoner in your own throat. Every conversation is a frustrating game of charades. Only instead of acting out a movie title, you're trying to repeat someone else's words, which, let's be honest, is way harder. But the woods are your solace. You know every twisted root, every moss-covered stone. You feel the pulse of life in the ancient trees, a silent conversation that doesn't require words. It's a comfort. Then you hear it. Not a sound you can echo, not exactly. It's more a rustling, a snapping of twigs, and a voice, a beautiful voice. Now, remember how we talked about Narcissus earlier, the ridiculously handsome youth? Yeah, this is him. You peer through the thick undergrowth. And there he is. He's exactly as the stories say. It's almost offensive how perfect he is. Seriously, has this guy ever had a bad hair day? You can practically see the sunlight bending to highlight his cheekbones. He's leaning against a tree, looking utterly bored, which somehow only makes him more attractive. Life is unfair, isn't it? He's wearing, well, not much, actually. A simple tunic, loosely draped. His sandals are laced up to his calves. He looks like he stepped straight out of a painting, or, you know, a really high-end cologne ad. He sighs dramatically. Is there anyone here? He calls out, his voice like melted honey. Am I truly alone in this wilderness? Okay, quick aside. Wilderness? Dude, you're like 5 minutes from a perfectly good town square. Get a grip. You, as Echo, are completely captivated. It's not just his beauty, though that certainly plays a part. It's the sound of his voice. It's been so long since you've heard anything so clear, so resonant. After being surrounded by the murmur of the forest and the half-finished sentences of others, his words are like a melody. And, of course, there's the fact that, thanks to Hera, you can't just walk up and introduce yourself. You are, quite literally, speechless. You long to call out to him, to say something, anything. But all you can do is watch, hidden in the shadows, as he shifts his weight and runs a hand through his impossibly perfect hair. He sighs again, a sound that makes your heart ache for reasons you can't quite explain. Maybe it's because you sense a loneliness in him, a vulnerability hidden beneath that flawless exterior. Or maybe it's just plain old attraction. Who knows? Nymph emotions are complicated. He starts to walk deeper into the woods. And you, without even thinking, follow him. You move silently, a shadow amongst shadows. You know these woods like the back of your hand, so you can navigate the tangled undergrowth without making a sound. He, on the other hand, is less adept. He stumbles over roots, brushes against thorny bushes, and generally looks like he's regretting his decision to take a leisurely stroll in the wilderness. Seriously, dude, just go back to town. There's probably a perfectly good taverna with someone willing to tell you how amazing you are. You keep your distance, close enough to see him, but far enough away that he won't notice you. You're like a particularly dedicated and slightly creepy nature photographer. Except instead of a camera, you have a broken voice and a burgeoning crush. He pauses by a stream, the water sparkling in the sunlight. He kneels down and cups his hands, bringing the water to his lips. Even that is graceful. It's infuriating. You watch him drink, mesmerized. You imagine what it would be like to talk to him, to hear his voice directed at you. You imagine all sorts of things. Things that a good bedtime story narrator probably shouldn't go into too much detail about. But the important thing is, in that moment, something shifts inside you. It's not just admiration. It's not just attraction. It's hope. A tiny spark of possibility in the darkness of your silenced world. Of course, this is a Greek myth, so that hope is probably misplaced. But for now, let's just savor the moment. Let's just enjoy the feeling of something. Now, a quick historical interlude, because we need to keep things vaguely educational. While the story of Echo and Narcissus is, a myth, the ancient Greeks definitely had some interesting ideas about beauty. They were obsessed with symmetry and proportion. In fact, some scholars believe that the golden ratio, a mathematical formula that supposedly represents perfect beauty, was first developed by the Pythagoreans in ancient Greece. So, Narcissus, with his flawless features, would have been considered the epitome of beauty according to their standards. And here's a slightly weirder fact. In ancient Greece, there was a belief that certain flowers could influence dreams. People would sometimes sleep with specific flowers under their pillows, hoping to induce prophetic or pleasant dreams. I wonder if Narcissus ever slept with narcissus flowers under his pillow, just to admire himself in his sleep? Probably. Now, about that scholarly debate. Historians still argue about the precise origins and interpretation of the myth of Echo and Narcissus. Some believe it's a cautionary tale about vanity, while others see it as a commentary on the nature of love and desire. Still others think it's a fable about the dangers of talking too much. I'm looking at you, Echo. Back to our story. Narcissus stands up from the stream, shaking the water from his hands. He turns, and for a moment, you think he's going to see you. Your heart leaps into your throat. You're frozen, caught between wanting to reveal yourself and the fear of rejection. But he doesn't see you. He's looking past you, at something in the distance. He frowns. Is someone there? He calls out, his voice now tinged with annoyance. Show yourself. This is it. Your chance. But what can you do? You can't speak. Not really. You can only echo. He sighs again, even louder this time. I swear, this forest is full of annoying things. And that, right there, is the problem. He's already annoyed. He's already impatient. He's already not interested. But still, something compels you. You can't help yourself. He calls out again. Hello? And you, hidden in the shadows, whisper back. Hello. He stops. He cocks his head. He looks around, his eyes narrowed. He doesn't see you. Not yet, but he hears you, and that's enough. For now, you are Echo, and you are in love. Or something very much like it. And even though you know, deep down, that this is probably a terrible idea, you can't help but feel a flicker of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, this beautiful, self-absorbed young man will see something in you. Something beyond your limitations. Now, you should probably get some sleep yourself. Close your eyes. Imagine the gentle rustling of leaves, the cool water of the stream, the distant sound of Narcissus's voice. Sleep well. And now, my friend, as the crickets chirp their lullaby and the scent of lavender fills the air, or maybe that's just my imagination, or my diffuser, we find ourselves in the very heart of Echo's silent yearning. You are Echo. Feel the cool earth beneath your bare feet as you trail after Narcissus. The forest floor is a tapestry of fallen leaves, damp and fragrant. Sunlight filters weakly through the dense canopy, dappling the path ahead in shifting patterns of light and shadow. You move with a nymph's grace, barely disturbing the undergrowth. He doesn't notice you. Of course, he doesn't. He strides ahead, all oblivious beauty and youthful arrogance. You watch the way the muscles in his back flex as he moves, the way the sunlight catches the golden strands in his dark hair. Ugh, so dreamy. It's kind of pathetic, this whole pining thing. A little stalkerish, maybe? But you can't help yourself. It's like watching a particularly compelling, albeit silent, play. You're just observing. For science, he pauses by a babbling brook, and you duck behind a thick oak, your heart hammering against your ribs. You can almost hear the blood rushing in your ears. Oh, the indignity of unrequited nymph love. He kneels, cupping water in his hands to drink. You long to call out to him, to say something. Anything. But you can't. Hera, that drama queen, made sure of that. All you can do is watch, your unvoiced feelings swirling around you like the mist that clings to the forest floor. Did you know that in ancient Greece, water nymphs like you were believed to possess prophetic powers? Apparently, they could see the future reflected in the water, which, honestly, would have been super helpful right about now. A quick glimpse into the future might have saved you a whole lot of heartache. Although, knowing my luck, I'd probably just see myself tripping over a root and face-planting into a mud puddle. But hey, at least I'd be doing something. You watch him splash water on his face, the drops clinging to his eyelashes like tiny diamonds. He sighs, a sound that seems to carry on the gentle breeze right to your ears. What is he thinking? Does he ever think of anyone? Probably not. He seems utterly self-absorbed. You know, maybe Hera did you a favor. Imagine being stuck with that level of vanity for eternity. Yikes. Still, he stands and continues his walk, deeper into the woods. You follow, keeping a discreet distance. It's a silent dance, this yearning pursuit. A tragic ballet performed for an audience of one. You. The air grows cooler as the sun dips lower in the sky. The shadows lengthen, stretching and distorting the shapes of the trees. It's getting harder to see him. You stumble slightly, catching yourself on the branch of a nearby pine. The sharp needles prick your skin, a small sting that grounds you in the present moment. You take a deep breath, trying to calm your racing heart. This is ridiculous, you think. Utterly, completely, ridiculously romantic. Oh, shut up, inner voice. He stops again, this time in a small clearing bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. He seems to be admiring a particularly vibrant patch of wildflowers. You watch him mesmerized. He really is beautiful. It's almost unfair, but it's a beauty that seems to exist in a vacuum, untouched by the world around him. A beauty that is ultimately empty. Or is it? Maybe you're being too harsh. Maybe there's more to him than meets the eye. Maybe no. Stop it. You're doing it again. Romanticizing the unattainable. It's a bad habit. Like binge-watching reality TV. You know it's terrible for you, but you just can't look away. Speaking of looking away, you might want to avert your eyes for a moment. Because what happens next is, well, it's not pretty. He starts posing. Yes, posing. For himself. He strikes a variety of ridiculous stances, admiring his reflection in the still water of a nearby pool. He preens. He pouts. He probably practices his signature. It's all very Instagram influencer, millennia before Instagram. You cringe. This is even worse than you imagined. And yet, you can't look away. It's like a train wreck. Or a really bad TikTok. You know you should scroll past, but you're morbidly curious to see what happens next. Historians still debate the exact location of this fateful pool, by the way. Some believe it was near Mount Helicon, a place sacred to the Muses. Others claim it was closer to Thespiae, a town known for its festivals, and, well, let's just say, its relaxed attitude towards, socializing. Personally, I like the Thespiae theory. It just seems more likely. Plus, imagine the gossip. You watch him continue his narcissistic display, feeling a mixture of pity and, well, mostly pity. Okay, maybe a little bit of secondhand embarrassment too. He's so completely unaware of himself, so utterly lost in his own image. It's actually kind of sad. And then, something unexpected happens. He smiles. A genuine, unguarded smile that lights up his entire face. And for a fleeting moment, you see something else in his eyes. Something vulnerable. Something human. Your heart skips a beat. Maybe, just maybe, there's more to him than meets the eye. Maybe he's not just a pretty face. Maybe he's capable of feeling something. Maybe, no. Stop it. You're doing it again. You're projecting your own hopes and desires onto him. He's still Narcissus. Still beautiful. Still self-absorbed. And still completely oblivious to your existence. The sun has almost completely disappeared below the horizon. The forest is now shrouded in twilight. It's time to go home. But you can't. You're rooted to the spot, watching him, waiting, hoping, yearning. It's a lonely vigil, this silent pursuit. A testament to the power of unrequited love. A power that can make even a chatty nymph like you speechless. Did you know that the ancient Greeks believed that Echo's whispers could sometimes be heard in caves, and other secluded places. They believed that she was still searching for Narcissus, her voice forever echoing through the mountains and valleys. A bit spooky, right? And here's a quirky little factoid for you. Some scholars believe that the myth of Echo and Narcissus is actually a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media. Apparently, gazing too long at your own reflection can lead to, well, let's just say, a certain lack of self-awareness. Who knew the ancient Greeks were so prescient? You watch Narcissus one last time. He's still admiring his reflection, lost in his own world. You sigh? It's hopeless. You turn and walk away, your heart heavy with longing. The forest seems darker now, the shadows deeper. The crickets chirp louder, their song a mournful dirge. You are alone, unseen, unheard, but not forgotten. Not by us, anyway. We're here, listening to your story, feeling your pain, and sending you all the virtual hugs we can muster. Because even though you're just a character in a myth, your feelings are real. Your yearning is palpable. And your story, well, it's kind of beautiful. In a tragic, stalkerish, totally not recommended in real life kind of way. Now close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the gentle sounds of the forest lull you to sleep. Tomorrow, we'll see what fate has in store for Echo and Narcissus. But for now, let's just rest. Let's just breathe. Let's just be. You're still following Narcissus, a shadow amongst the trees. The forest floor is soft beneath your imagined feet, a carpet of fallen leaves damp with the morning dew. The air smells richly of pine and damp earth. You can almost feel the cool mist clinging to your skin. Narcissus, bless his oblivious heart, is becoming increasingly agitated. He's wandered quite far from any recognizable path, and the sun is beginning to climb higher in the sky. He stops abruptly, turning in a slow circle, his brow furrowed. You can practically hear him thinking, "Okay, where exactly am I?" He calls out, his voice clear and melodious, even when laced with a hint of frustration. Is anyone there? Echo, of course, is thrilled. This is the moment she's been waiting for, the chance to finally, the chance to finally repeat something he says. It's not ideal, but it's all she's got. You watch, your heart aching for her, as she echoes his words, her voice a faint, ethereal whisper. There, Narcissus jumps. Not a huge, dramatic leap, mind you. More of a startled little hop, like when you accidentally step on a squeaky dog toy. He scans the surrounding trees, his eyes wide. Who's there? He calls, a little louder this time, a definite edge of annoyance creeping into his tone. And Echo, poor, doomed Echo, can only reply, there? Now, Narcissus is officially creeped out. He's not seeing anyone, but he's definitely hearing something. It's like one of those awful interactive museum exhibits that are supposed to be all spooky and atmospheric, but just end up being annoying. You know the ones where you push a button and a disembodied voice whispers something cryptic in your ear. He probably wishes he was at a museum right now, surrounded by marble statues and informative plaques, instead of lost in this increasingly unsettling forest. He tries a different approach. Show yourself, he demands, his voice now bordering on imperious. It's the tone he probably uses when ordering lattes from nymphs who accidentally put too much foam on top. I imagine. Echo, bless her unwavering, if somewhat limited, dedication, echoes, yourself. And that's it. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back, or in this case, the perfectly sculpted back of Narcissus. He's officially done with this invisible weirdo. I'll have nothing to do with you, he declares, his voice ringing through the trees. It's a bit harsh, honestly. Couldn't he have just said, thanks? But no thanks, mysterious voice in the woods. And Echo, utterly devastated, whispers back, with you. You can practically feel her heart shattering. It's like watching a rom-com where the grand, sweeping declaration of love is met with a polite, but firm, rejection. Except, with more echoing. Narcissus, clearly not picking up on the subtle cues of heartbreak and despair, simply turns and strides away, muttering something about annoying woodland spirits and needing to find a decent cup of ambrosia. He's probably thinking about how this whole experience will make a great story for his social media feed. Lost in the woods. Evergreen tree ghost so spoopy. Zany face. You watch him go, feeling a surge of sympathy for Echo. It's a tough break. Rejection is never fun, especially when you can only express your feelings by repeating the last thing someone says. It's like trying to win a debate using only the opponent's arguments. Good luck with that. Speaking of arguments, did you know that the exact location of the spring where Narcissus eventually meets his watery end is still debated by historians? Some say it was near Thespiae, a town in Boeotia, while others argue for a spot closer to Mount Helicon. It's all very exciting, for historians, anyway. For the rest of us, it's just another reminder that even ancient gossip has its share of conflicting accounts. Now, where were we? Ah yes, Echo's crushing defeat. You stay with her for a moment, a silent observer of her quiet despair. The air around her seems to grow heavy, the sunlight dimming slightly. You can almost feel the weight of her unrequited love pressing down on you. It's worth noting, by the way, that the concept of echoes themselves has fascinated people for centuries. The ancient Greeks, being the clever bunch they were, even had a scientific theory about them. They believed that echoes were caused by sound waves bouncing off smooth, hard surfaces, which, you know, is pretty close to the truth. They just didn't have all the fancy equipment we have today to figure it out properly. Imagine trying to explain quantum physics using only a lyre and a toga. Good luck with that, too. You might be wondering, by the way, why Echo didn't just write Narcissus a note. Surely, she could have communicated her feelings more clearly that way. Well, aside from the fact that nymphs probably didn't carry around parchment and quills, remember Hera's curse? It wasn't just about speaking, it was about initiating conversation. She could only respond, not start. So, writing a note would have been out of the question. It was a real communication pickle. This whole situation does raise a valid point, doesn't it? How often do we truly listen to others? Or are we just waiting for our turn to speak? Are we echoing back what we think people want to hear? Or are we engaging in genuine, heartfelt communication? Deep thoughts for bedtime, I know. But hey, at least it's not another lecture on the Peloponnesian War. Anyway, back to Echo. You sense that she needs some space, some time to process her rejection. So, you decide to leave her there, alone in the darkening woods, her whispered sorrow fading into the rustling leaves. You know, in your heart, that this isn't the end of her story. But for now, it's a moment of profound sadness, a reminder that even in the realm of myth and legend, heartbreak is a universal experience. And, perhaps, a reminder that sometimes, the most beautiful voices are the ones that are never truly heard. Plus, it's a good reminder to be nice to people. You never know who's secretly pining after you from behind a tree. Though, if you do suspect someone is lurking in the bushes, maybe call the authorities. Just saying. And now, you find yourself drifting back to the sun-dappled woods. The air, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, feels heavier now. You can almost taste the metallic tang of heartbreak in the air, can't you? No, that's probably just your imagination. Or maybe you need more iron. I'm not a doctor, don't quote me. Echo. Poor Echo. She heard the sharp sting of Narcissus' rejection, not just with her ears, but with her very soul. You can picture her, can't you? Standing there, hidden amongst the gnarled oak trees, the dappled sunlight now feeling less like a blessing and more like a spotlight on her shame. Each word he spoke, each dismissive, arrogant syllable, lands on her like a tiny, agonizing blow. Remember how she could only repeat the words of others? Now, even that limited ability feels useless. What good are borrowed words when your own heart is screaming a language no one understands? She tries to form a response, to somehow explain the depth of her feelings, but the curse holds her captive. All that escapes her lips is a faint, echoing sigh. A ghost of the conversation she desperately wished she could have. You can feel the weight of that silence, can't you? That crushing, all-encompassing quiet that descends when you realize your words are meaningless, your voice unheard. Imagine wanting to tell someone how deeply you feel, how much their presence means to you, but being completely unable to articulate it. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Frustrating, isn't it? She turns and flees, deeper into the forest, the laughter of unseen birds mocking her pain. The vibrant green of the leaves now seems dull, lifeless. The babbling brook, which once soothed her with its gentle melody, now sounds like a constant, cruel reminder of the words she can never speak. You trudge along with her, your own footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of fallen leaves. The air grows cooler as you venture further into the shadowed heart of the woods. It's the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, a cold that mirrors the emptiness growing within Echo. And here's a fun fact to distract you from the impending sadness. Did you know that the ancient Greeks believed nymphs were closely tied to specific locations? Echo, as a nymph of the woods, was essentially part of the forest itself. Her well-being was intrinsically linked to the health of her environment. So, as Echo suffers, the forest seems to subtly reflect her sorrow, the leaves drooping, the flowers fading. It's all very poetic, if you ignore the crushing emotional pain. But back to the sadness. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months. Echo isolates herself, shunning the company of her fellow nymphs. She no longer delights in chasing deer through the undergrowth or whispering secrets to the wind. Her only companion is her grief, a constant, gnawing presence that consumes her from the inside out. You see her now, a shadow flitting through the trees. Her once vibrant skin is pale and translucent. Her eyes, once bright with mischief, are now hollow and filled with a bottomless sorrow. She barely eats, barely sleeps. The very essence of her being is slowly fading away, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. It's genuinely sad. And on a completely unrelated note, have you ever wondered if nymphs had therapists? I mean, dealing with unrequited love and Hera's wrath. That's got to take a toll. Maybe Echo could have benefited from some good old-fashioned nymph-to-nymph counseling. Just a thought. But alas, no therapists in ancient Greece, probably. So, Echo continues to wither, her body growing weaker, her voice fainter. You can almost hear it now, a barely audible whisper carried on the breeze. It's the sound of her heart breaking, of her spirit surrendering to the overwhelming weight of despair. Here's a quirky little tidbit. Some fringe historians, and by fringe, I mean the kind who wear tinfoil hats to academic conferences, believe that the myth of Echo and Narcissus is actually a metaphor for the dangers of self-obsession and the importance of empathy. They argue that Narcissus' inability to see beyond his own reflection represents a societal problem, a lack of connection to others. Which, honestly, isn't totally crazy. You watch as Echo stumbles, collapsing at the base of an ancient oak tree. Her breath comes in ragged gasps. Her eyes flutter closed. And then silence. A different kind of silence this time. A silence that isn't imposed by Hera, but chosen by Echo herself. Her body begins to dissolve, slowly merging with the earth, returning to the very essence of the forest from which she came. Her bones crumble into dust, her flesh becomes one with the soil, her hair weaves itself into the roots of the trees. All that remains is her voice. You hear it now, echoing through the woods. A faint, ethereal whisper that dances on the breeze. It's the echo of her laughter, the echo of her sorrow, the echo of her unrequited love. It's a reminder of her existence, a testament to the pain she endured, a haunting melody that will forever linger in the heart of the forest. Historians still debate the purpose of myths like Echo and Narcissus. Were they simply cautionary tales designed to teach moral lessons? Were they attempts to explain natural phenomena? Or were they something more complex, a way for ancient Greeks to grapple with profound questions about love, loss, and the nature of existence itself? It's a question that continues to fascinate scholars to this day. Me? I think they were just really good stories. You stand there for a moment, listening to the echoes of Echo's voice, feeling the weight of her sorrow in your own heart. It's a somber scene, isn't it? But even in the midst of tragedy, there's a strange kind of beauty. A beauty in the way her spirit merges with the forest, a beauty in the enduring power of her voice, a beauty in the reminder that even in the face of unbearable pain, something of us always remains. And, hey, at least she doesn't have to deal with Narcissus anymore, right? Silver linings, people. Silver linings. Now, take a deep breath. Let the sadness wash over you, and then let it go. It's time to move on. There's still more to this story, and trust me, it gets interesting. And maybe a little bit less depressing. I promise nothing. But for now, let's leave Echo's voice echoing through the trees, a gentle reminder of the power of love, loss, and the enduring strength of the human, or nymph, spirit. And now, you find yourself drifting, floating almost, in the same glade where Echo's heart shattered. The air is thick with the scent of pine and something else. Something sad, like a forgotten birthday party. You can almost hear the silence, can't you? It's a heavy silence, pregnant with unspoken words and unrequited longing. You're not alone, though. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves, and you sense a presence. Not a threatening one, more observant. It's Nemesis. Now, Nemesis wasn't exactly known for her sunny disposition. She was the goddess of retribution, of balance, of making sure everyone got what they deserved, whether they liked it or not. Think of her as the ancient Greek equivalent of karma with a really, really bad attitude. And, frankly, who doesn't have a bad attitude sometimes? We've all been there. Maybe not goddess-level bad, but close. You see her now, shimmering slightly, as if the air itself is bending around her. She's not what you might expect. No snarling face, no thunderbolts crackling in her hands. Just a profound sense of fairness. Or maybe it's just exhaustion. I bet being the goddess of revenge is a tiring gig. All that cosmic bookkeeping. She's listening. You can tell. Listening to the whispers carried on the wind, the echoes of Echo's pain. The very trees seem to weep with her sorrow. Oh, poor Echo. Nemesis murmurs, her voice like the rustling of autumn leaves. To be silenced, to love so deeply and be so cruelly rejected. It is unbalanced. You notice, with a slightly morbid fascination, that Nemesis's sandals are surprisingly practical. Like Birkenstock-level practical. You wouldn't expect a goddess to prioritize comfort. But hey, even deities need arch support. Now, here's a fun fact. Nemesis actually had a temple dedicated to her in Rhamnus, a town in Attica. The temple was built after the Battle of Marathon, and the story goes that the Persians, feeling confident about their impending victory, brought a block of Parian marble with them to erect a victory monument. But, plot twist, the Greeks won, and they used that same block of marble to commission a statue of Nemesis. Talk about poetic justice. You watch as Nemesis closes her eyes, her face etched with a kind of sorrowful determination. You can practically feel the cosmic gears turning, the scales of justice being recalibrated. This cannot stand, she says, her voice gaining strength. Such vanity, such self-absorption. It breeds imbalance. Narcissus must learn the consequences of his actions. You might be thinking, okay, so what's the plan? Lightning bolt? Plague of locusts? A strongly worded letter? But Nemesis operates in subtler ways. She understands that the most effective punishments are often the ones that come from within. She considers for a moment, her gaze fixed on the spot where Echo last stood, where her essence still lingers in the air. He loves nothing but himself? Very well. He shall have nothing but himself to love. You shiver, even though the air is still warm. It's not a cold shiver, but a shiver of anticipation. Something is about to happen. Something significant. Nemesis then plucks a single dewdrop from a nearby leaf. It shimmers in the sunlight, holding a tiny, perfect reflection of the world around it. She holds it out, whispering an incantation, a string of ancient words that resonate deep within your bones. And here's where it gets interesting. Historians still debate the exact nature of Nemesis's power. Was it divine intervention, pure and simple? Or was it something more psychological, a manipulation of fate that preyed on Narcissus's own insecurities and vulnerabilities? Some even suggest that Nemesis was less a goddess and more a personification of natural consequences. Like, you act like a jerk, you get jerk results. Regardless, the dewdrop glows with an otherworldly light, then vanishes into the air, carried on the breeze towards, well, you know where. Towards Narcissus. You might be wondering if Nemesis ever felt bad for Narcissus. I mean, getting cursed by a goddess is a pretty rough deal. But remember, Nemesis wasn't about cruelty, she was about balance. And sometimes, balance requires a little unpleasantness. Think of it like a cosmic chiropractor. Sometimes things need to be adjusted, even if it hurts a little. Or a lot. And, on a completely unrelated note, did you know that the word nemesis has actually been used in biology? Specifically, there's a fringe theory that our sun has a binary companion star, a dwarf star nicknamed Nemesis, that periodically disrupts the Oort cloud and sends comets hurtling towards Earth, causing mass extinctions. Talk about holding a grudge. You watch as Nemesis slowly fades, her form dissolving into the dappled sunlight. She leaves you with a sense of completion. The scales have been tipped. The wheels are in motion, but also a sense of unease. Because you know what's coming. You know what awaits Narcissus. And while he may deserve it, there's still a part of you that feels a twinge of pity. Or maybe it's just indigestion from that ambrosia you had earlier. Hard to say. You take a deep breath, the scent of pine and sadness still heavy in the air. You think of Echo, still whispering in the wind, and Narcissus, blissfully unaware of the fate that awaits him. You can almost hear Nemesis chuckle, a soft, dry sound like the rustling of dry leaves. Sleep well, she seems to whisper on the breeze. For tomorrow will be interesting. You are wandering now, alongside Narcissus. The air is thick with the scent of pine and something almost floral. It's a lazy afternoon, the kind where the sun dapples through the leaves in a way that makes you want to take a nap right there on the forest floor. But Narcissus, bless his heart, is still searching. Probably for a decent selfie spot, if we're being honest. You've been trailing him for what feels like ages, and you can practically feel the heat radiating off him. Not in a creepy way, just, he's really good looking. Even after hours of hiking. How does he do it? Must be good genes. Or maybe he's secretly a cyborg. It's Greece, anything's possible. Anyway, you press on, deeper into the woods. The ground starts to slope downwards, and you hear the faint sound of water? Yes, a small stream trickles nearby, leading to a secluded pool, hidden amongst ferns and moss-covered stones. It's absolutely idyllic. Like something straight out of a stock photo. Narcissus stops. Finally, he's probably thirsty. All that brooding must really dry a person out. He pushes aside some overhanging branches, and wow, you can practically see the cartoon hearts forming above his head. The pool is crystal clear, reflecting the sky like a mirror. And in that mirror is Narcissus. But he's never seen himself like this before. Not in such perfect clarity. No filtered selfies, no flattering angles, just him. He's captivated. Absolutely, utterly, gobsmackingly captivated. He leans closer, his breath misting on the still surface of the water. He reaches out a tentative finger, as if to touch the image staring back at him. It's like he's fallen in love. With himself. I mean, who hasn't, right? Just a little bit? Don't lie. We all have our moments in the bathroom mirror. But this is different. This is full-blown, head over heels, can't eat, can't sleep love. He doesn't realize it, of course. He thinks he's in love with this ethereal creature he sees in the water. He doesn't understand that it's just a reflection. Poor guy. Talk about being catfished by yourself. He smiles, and the reflection smiles back. He frowns, and the reflection frowns too. He tries to kiss the image, but his lips meet only cold water. He's confused, frustrated, and utterly, completely enthralled. He's basically glued to the spot now. He can't tear himself away. He forgets about everything else. The sun, the forest, the nagging feeling that he should probably be doing something more productive with his life. All that matters is the beautiful face staring back at him from the pool. You watch him, feeling a strange mix of pity and amusement. He's so caught up in his own beauty that he's completely oblivious to everything else. He doesn't notice the birds singing, the wind rustling through the trees, or even you, standing just a few feet away. It's a bit of a commentary on vanity, isn't it? It's like that saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But in this case, the beholder is just himself. Interestingly, the concept of mirrors and self-perception wasn't as straightforward in ancient Greece as it is today. While they did have mirrors, often made of polished bronze, they weren't always perfectly reflective. So, seeing a clear, undistorted image of oneself might have been a rarer and more profound experience. Maybe that explains Narcissus's extreme reaction? Or maybe he was just really into himself. Speaking of mirrors, did you know that the earliest known mirrors date back to around 6000 BC, found in modern-day Turkey? They were made of polished obsidian. Fancy. Imagine trying to check your lipstick in one of those. Probably wouldn't be great for selfies, either. Anyway, back to Narcissus. He's still staring into the pool, completely lost in his own reflection. He started talking to it now, whispering sweet nothings to the water. It's actually kind of sad, and a little bit creepy. You wonder how long he's going to stay there. Days? Weeks? Forever? Will he eventually realize that he's in love with an illusion? Or will he just waste away, pining for a love that can never be? Historians still debate the true meaning of the Narcissus myth. Some see it as a cautionary tale about vanity and self-obsession. Others interpret it as a commentary on the dangers of unrequited love. And some, like your slightly more sarcastic narrator, think it's just a funny story about a really, really good-looking guy who fell in love with his own reflection. It's worth noting that the myth of Narcissus has been reinterpreted countless times throughout history, influencing art, literature, and even psychology. Sigmund Freud, for example, used the term narcissism to describe a particular type of personality disorder characterized by excessive self-admiration and a lack of empathy. So, next time you hear someone called a narcissist, you can think back to this story and impress everyone with your knowledge of Greek mythology. But let's not get too bogged down in psychological jargon. This is bedtime, after all. Let's just focus on the image of Narcissus, kneeling by the pool, lost in his own reflection. The sun is starting to set now, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The air is cooling down, and the crickets are beginning to chirp. It's a peaceful scene, despite the underlying tragedy of it all. You watch him a little longer, then decide to move on. There's nothing you can do to help him. He's too far gone, too consumed by his own beauty. Besides, you're starting to get hungry, and all this talk of love and reflections is making you sleepy. Before you leave, you glance back at Narcissus one last time. He's still there, staring into the pool, his face illuminated by the last rays of the setting sun. He looks almost happy, and that, my friends, is perhaps the saddest part of all. He's found his perfect love, and it's himself. Now, let's move on before we all start contemplating our own reflections too much. It's late, and we have more boring myths to explore. What other tragic figures await us in the annals of Greek mythology? Only time, and a lot more gentle narration, will tell. But for now, let's just drift off to sleep, dreaming of crystal-clear pools and ridiculously good-looking young men. Just try not to fall in love with your own reflection in the process, okay? Good night. Lost in himself, he can't look away. You're watching Narcissus now, and honestly, it's getting a little stale. I mean, even I'm starting to feel bad for him, and I'm just narrating. Imagine being him, stuck staring at, well, him. The sun continues its slow arc across the sky, painting the water in different shades of gold and amber. You see how the light dances on his face, highlighting the curve of his cheek, the almost unfairly perfect line of his jaw. But instead of appreciating the beauty of the world around him, the rustling leaves, the buzzing of bees, the distant call of a wait, is that Echo? Nah, probably just the wind. Anyway, instead of that, he's completely, utterly, and irrevocably fixated on his own reflection. It's like he's forgotten everything else. Food, water, remember that whole concept of survival? Gone. Poof. Vanished like a politician's promise. All that exists for him now is the shimmering image in the pool. He reaches out, tentatively, his fingers brushing the cool surface of the water. The image wavers, distorted for a moment, and a flicker of something crosses his face. Is it fear? Confusion? Boredom? Nah, probably just a mosquito bite. You notice how he tries to engage with the reflection. He smiles, and the reflection smiles back. He frowns, and the reflection mirrors his displeasure. He whispers sweet nothings to himself, which, let's be honest, is just sad. It's like watching someone have a conversation with a particularly shiny doorknob. Days turn into, well, more days. Time loses all meaning. The sun rises, the sun sets. The crickets chirp, the owls hoot. And Narcissus? Still staring. You start to wonder if he's even blinking anymore. His clothes, once pristine and stylish, even by ancient Greek standards, which, let's face it, were mostly just draped sheets, are now rumpled and stained. He's starting to look less like a demigod and more like a guy who's been camping for a week without a shower. His skin, initially tanned and glowing, is now pale and drawn. You can see the subtle shadows under his eyes, the faint lines of exhaustion etched around his mouth. He's wasting away, slowly but surely, consumed by an infatuation that can never be fulfilled. It's a tragedy, really. A really boring tragedy. You might be thinking, well, why doesn't he just leave? And that's a perfectly valid question. But here's the thing, he can't. He's trapped, not by physical chains, but by the chains of his own vanity. He's become so enamored with the image in the pool that he's lost the ability to see anything else. It's like being addicted to doom scrolling, but instead of a phone, it's your own face. This reminds me of something. Did you know that the ancient Greeks actually used makeup? Archaeological evidence suggests that both men and women used cosmetics to enhance their appearance, often using things like crushed berries for blush and charcoal for eyeliner. So, Even back then, people were obsessed with their looks. I guess some things never change, huh? You see him try to break free from the spell. He averts his gaze, looks away from the pool, tries to focus on something else, a passing butterfly, a distant bird, anything. But it's no use. The pull is too strong. He's drawn back to the reflection like a moth to a very, very handsome flame. Historians still debate the exact purpose of these myths. Were they simply entertaining stories? Were they meant to teach moral lessons? Or were they a way for the ancient Greeks to grapple with complex philosophical ideas? Maybe it was all of the above. Maybe they just needed something to talk about while they were waiting for the invention of Netflix. He tries to speak to the reflection, to understand it, to connect with it. But all he gets in return is a silent mimicry, a hollow echo of his own words. It's a cruel mockery of connection, a constant reminder of his isolation. Remember Echo? She at least had the hope of connection, even if it was ultimately denied. Narcissus doesn't even have that. He's alone with himself, and that, it turns out, is the worst company of all. There's this weird, fringe theory that Narcissus wasn't actually looking at his own reflection. Some people believe he was looking at the reflection of his twin sister, who had died young. The theory suggests that he was so grief-stricken by her loss that he projected her image onto the pool, mistaking it for his own. It's a bit far-fetched, I know, but it adds a layer of something to the story, doesn't it? Makes it a little less about vanity and a little more about grief. Though, let's be honest, he was still pretty vain. You see him growing weaker now. His movements are sluggish, his breathing shallow. The light in his eyes has dimmed, replaced by a dull, vacant stare. He's withering away, like a flower deprived of water. It's a slow, agonizing decline, and you can't help but feel a sense of pity for him. Even though he's kind of brought it all on himself, he tries to reach out to the reflection one last time, his fingers trembling as they graze the surface of the water. The image shimmers, wavers, and then fades. As his strength ebbs away, the reflection seems to become less distinct, as if his own life force is draining away into the pool. He whispers something, a word, a name, maybe just a sigh. You can't quite make it out. And then silence. He collapses beside the pool, his body limp and lifeless. The beautiful Narcissus, the object of so much desire, is gone, reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale. Now, before you get too bummed out, remember this. The ancient Greeks believed in reincarnation. So who knows? Maybe Narcissus came back as a particularly handsome houseplant. Or maybe he learned his lesson and came back as a really, really ugly toad. The possibilities are endless. But for now, let's just focus on the image of Narcissus lying beside the pool, a tragic figure consumed by his own beauty. It's a reminder that even the most dazzling exterior can't mask the emptiness within. And that maybe, just maybe, it's better to look outward than inward. Unless you're looking at a really good sale. Then, by all means, look inward to your wallet. The days melt into weeks, and the weeks, well, they probably melt into months. Time has a funny way of doing that when you're, staring at yourself. You watch Narcissus, still kneeling by the pool, his eyes never leaving that shimmering image. He stopped eating, hasn't had a decent sip of water in. Well, you've lost count. Frankly, he's lost count. You suspect he's forgotten his own name. It's a bit like when you're binge-watching a show and suddenly realize you haven't moved in 6 hours and your limbs are starting to feel like they belong to someone else. Except, way more tragic and significantly less Netflix. His vibrant cloak, once a statement piece of youthful arrogance, remember that, is now faded and rumpled. The fine leather sandals he wore are cracked and dusty. Even his hair, that glorious, perfectly coiffed mane that launched 1,000 sighs, is now matted and tangled. You can practically hear his stylist weeping from Mount Olympus. You watch as the color drains from his face, replaced by a sickly pallor. His once muscular arms grow thin and frail. He's withering, quite literally, before your very eyes. It's a slow, agonizing process, a testament to the destructive power of being really, really into yourself. He tries to reach out to the reflection, his fingers brushing the cool water. But the image remains elusive, just out of reach. You can almost hear him whisper, "Stay with me." But it's barely audible, a breath of desperation lost in the rustling leaves. It's a far cry from the dismissive arrogance he showed Echo, isn't it? Karma, as they say, is a dish best served, reflecting back at you from a pond. And then, one day, it's over. You arrive at the pool, the morning sun painting the water in hues of gold and rose. But Narcissus is gone. He lies slumped forward, his face submerged in the water. The image he so desperately loved has finally claimed him. It's a rather anticlimactic ending, really. You'd expect some grand, dramatic flourish, maybe a lightning bolt or two. But no, just silence. And a very still, very beautiful, very dead young man. Okay, deep breath. Morbid, I know. But wait, there's a twist. As you stand there, contemplating the fleeting nature of beauty and the dangers of unchecked ego, heavy stuff for a bedtime story, I realize, but we're committed now. You notice something peculiar. Where Narcissus knelt, where his body now lies, something is stirring. The earth seems to be shifting. And then, slowly, tentatively, a sprout emerges. It's a delicate thing, a slender green shoot pushing its way through the soil. You watch, mesmerized, as it grows taller, stronger. Leaves unfurl, delicate and vibrant. And then, a bud appears, swelling with promise. Finally, the bud bursts open, revealing a flower unlike any you've ever seen. It's a stunning bloom, with delicate white petals surrounding a vibrant yellow center. It droops slightly, as if forever gazing down at its own reflection in the earth. It's beautiful, hauntingly so. This, you realize, is the narcissus flower. And yes, that's where the name comes from. Pretty straightforward, really. The Greeks weren't always subtle with their naming conventions. It's like naming a bare, furry macaw face. Gets the point across, doesn't it? So, Narcissus, the beautiful but tragically self-absorbed youth, is gone. But his essence, his beauty, lives on in this delicate flower. It's a rather poetic ending, in a way. A reminder that even from the most profound vanity, something beautiful can emerge. You might even say it's a metaphor for personal growth, if you were feeling particularly generous. Or maybe it's just a flower. Now, here's a fun fact for you. Narcissus flowers are actually poisonous. All parts of the plant, especially the bulb, contain alkaloids that can cause nausea, vomiting, and even more serious symptoms if ingested. So, while they might be pretty to look at, definitely don't put them in your salad. Unless you're trying to. Well, I won't go there. And speaking of interesting facts, did you know that in some cultures, narcissus flowers are considered symbols of good fortune and prosperity? They're often given as gifts during the Lunar New Year, particularly in China. It's a bit ironic, isn't it, considering the flower's namesake? Talk about mixed messages. It's like giving someone a cactus to symbolize a loving relationship. Historically, the narcissus flower has been associated with various symbolic meanings across different cultures. In ancient Greece, it was linked to death and mourning, perhaps due to the myth of Narcissus and its association with the underworld. In Roman times, it was used in perfumes and garlands. And in Victorian England, it symbolized unrequited love. Echo would have appreciated that one, I think. Now, here's a little scholarly debate to chew on. Historians still argue about the exact species of flower that the ancient Greeks would have considered the narcissus. There are many different types of narcissus flowers, and it's difficult to pinpoint which one was specifically associated with the myth. Some scholars believe it was the Narcissus poeticus, known for its strong fragrance and delicate white petals. Others suggest it could have been a different variety altogether. It's like trying to figure out what kind of apple Eve offered Adam. We just don't know for sure. Also, some fringe theories suggest that the myth of Narcissus was actually a cautionary tale about the dangers of mercury poisoning. Apparently, mercury was used in ancient cosmetics and mirrors, and prolonged exposure could lead to neurological damage and, well, narcissistic tendencies. It's a bit of a stretch, I know. But hey, it's something to think about while you're drifting off to sleep. So, there you have it. Narcissus, the beautiful youth who loved himself a little too much, transformed into a beautiful, yet poisonous, flower. A reminder that beauty is fleeting, vanity is dangerous, and sometimes, the best thing you can do is just look away. Or, close your eyes and go to sleep. You linger by the pool for a moment longer, the gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. The narcissus flower sways softly, its delicate petals catching the sunlight. You whisper a quiet farewell to Narcissus, hoping that wherever his soul may be, he's finally found some peace. And maybe, just maybe, learned a little humility. And you can't help but wonder, as you walk away, what Echo would think of all this. Would she find some solace in the flower that now bears his name? Would she finally feel that her love, though unrequited, had left some kind of mark on the world? Or would she simply sigh, her voice echoing through the trees, a reminder that even in death, some hearts remain forever broken? You'll probably never know. But as you drift off to sleep tonight, you can imagine her whispering in your ear, a gentle reminder to be kind, to be compassionate, and to never, ever fall too deeply in love with your own reflection. Sleep tight. Don't let the narcissists bite. You're drifting now, the story of Echo and Narcissus swirling around you like a gentle mist. The rise and fall of the words, the soft rustle of imagined leaves, it's all designed to help you. Just let go. And as the tale continues, you find yourself back in that sun-dappled forest. But this time, you're not observing. You are Echo. Or, perhaps, what's left of Echo. You are the whisper of the wind through the pines, the rustle of dry leaves underfoot. Even though you don't have feet anymore, silly. You are the echo that bounces off the moss-covered rocks. You are a presence, an essence, and it's lonely, even after all this time. Even after Narcissus has become nothing more than a pretty little flower nodding in the breeze, his beauty feeding the soil, you remain. You drift through the woods, a disembodied voice, a faint memory clinging to the trees. You try to remember what it was like to feel the sun on your skin, to laugh with your nymph sisters, to choose your own words. But it's all fading, like a watercolor left out in the rain. Sometimes, you catch snippets of conversations carried on the breeze. Lovers whispering sweet nothings, gag. Families sharing stories around a campfire, slightly less gag-inducing. Even just the grumbling of a bear searching for honey, now that's relatable. And for a fleeting moment, you feel a flicker of connection, a yearning to join in, to participate, to be something more than just a reverberation. But then the feeling passes, leaving you with that familiar hollow ache. You are destined to only repeat, to only reflect, to only echo. You linger near the pool where Narcissus met his watery demise. The narcissus flowers, so original, right, are in full bloom now, their delicate white petals surrounding the water's edge like a mournful halo. You can almost hear his voice, still murmuring his own name, lost in eternal admiration. He's probably still trying to get the perfect selfie, honestly. It's ironic, isn't it? He was so obsessed with his own reflection that he couldn't see the beauty all around him. He couldn't see you. And now, he's forever trapped in a reflection of himself, just in a different form. And you are trapped echoing the world around you, a reflection of everything but yourself. Scholars still debate the true meaning of the Echo and Narcissus myth. Some say it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of vanity and self-obsession. Others interpret it as a commentary on the nature of communication and the importance of being heard. Okay, deep. And some, the really edgy ones, suggest it's a metaphor for the human condition itself, our constant search for meaning and connection in a world that often feels empty. Personally, you think it's just a really sad story about a girl with a speech impediment and a guy who needed a serious intervention. But even in your faded, ethereal state, you can't help but feel a tiny bit of satisfaction. Narcissus got what he deserved. He was so wrapped up in himself that he couldn't see the pain he caused. And now, he's paying the price. Though, let's be honest, turning into a flower isn't that bad. Free sunshine, constant hydration, it could be worse. You remember a time, before Hera's curse, when you were known for your stories. You could captivate an audience for hours with your witty tales and elaborate embellishments. You were the life of the party, or, the nymph equivalent of a party. Did you know that in ancient Greece, storytelling was considered a vital part of their culture? People would gather in marketplaces and public squares to listen to epic poems and dramatic plays. Storytellers were revered, almost like YouTube hosts with soothing voices. Now, all you have are fragments. Snippets of memories, echoes of conversations, whispers of what once was. You try to piece together a coherent narrative, to reclaim your voice, to tell your story. But the words, they just won't come. They're trapped, like butterflies in a jar. You try to remember your name. Echo. Yes, that's it. But it feels distant, like a name that belongs to someone else. You try to remember your face, your smile, your laugh, but all you see is a blur. A faded image in a cracked mirror. You are nothing but a *echo star. And yet, there's something else. Something faint, but persistent. A glimmer of hope, perhaps? Or maybe just wishful thinking. You notice that the forest seems to respond to your presence. The leaves rustle a little louder, the birds sing a little sweeter, the wind whispers a little softer. It's as if the woods themselves are trying to comfort you, to acknowledge your existence. You are not entirely forgotten. You are not entirely alone. Your voice may be limited, your form may be gone, but your essence, your spirit, it lingers. It permeates the forest, woven into the fabric of the trees, the rocks, the very air itself. And in a way, that's kind of beautiful. Think of it. You're like a walking, or, floating piece of history. You're a living, or, unliving testament to the power of love, loss, and the enduring strength of the human, or, nymph, spirit. Or, at least, that's what you tell yourself to feel better. You remember hearing, maybe eons ago, that the concept of echoes fascinated the ancient Greeks. They didn't fully understand the science behind it, so they attributed it to, you. They believed that echoes were the voices of nymphs and other spirits, trapped in the mountains and forests. In a way, they weren't entirely wrong. There's even some fringe theory stuff suggesting that certain geological formations were deliberately designed to enhance echoes, creating sacred spaces where people could communicate with the gods. Imagine that being your job, architectural echo consultant. Yeah, needs more reverb. God's not feeling it. And so, you continue to drift through the woods, a gentle reminder of lost love, a whisper in the wind, an echo in the trees. You are a part of the forest now, forever bound to the place where your heart broke, where your voice was silenced, where Narcissus was a jerk. But even in your sorrow, there's a sense of peace, a quiet acceptance of your fate. You are echo, and you will continue to echo, long after the trees have fallen, the mountains have crumbled, and the world has moved on. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, someone will hear your echo one day. Someone will understand your story. Someone will remember your name. And that, my friend, is enough. A gentle lesson on love and listening. Perhaps there's a little Echo and Narcissus in us all. You're drifting now, the tale of Echo and Narcissus swirling around you like the morning mist in those ancient Greek woods. It's a sad story, yeah, a real bummer, but even in its melancholy, there's something useful. Like that weird kitchen gadget you bought on late-night TV that actually works. Who knew, right? Think about it. Echo, so caught up in her own chatter, initially. I mean, we all know someone like that, don't we? The friend who dominates every conversation, the relative who can't stop talking about their colonoscopy. And then, silenced. Forced to listen. A cruel punishment, sure, but maybe, just maybe, a little bit of a karmic reset. Like when you accidentally set your alarm for 3 a.m. and then are forced to actually appreciate the sunrise. You can almost feel Echo's longing, can't you? The burning desire to connect, to be heard, now ironically amplified by her inability to speak freely. It's that universal human need, isn't it? To be seen, to be understood. It's why we post filtered selfies on Instagram, why we write bad poetry, why we tell our cats all our secrets. And then there's Narcissus. Oh, Narcissus. So beautiful, so oblivious, lost in his own reflection, completely unable to see anything beyond the surface. We've all been there, haven't we? Staring at our own metaphorical reflection, whether it's our bank balance, our career prospects, or just that tiny wrinkle that seems to have appeared overnight. We get so consumed by our own image, our own concerns, that we forget to look around, to really see the world and the people in it. It's a bit like that time you spent 3 hours perfecting your sourdough starter only to realize you forgot to buy flour. All that effort, all that focus, completely misplaced. Here's a fun little historical tidbit. Mirrors, like the pool that captivated Narcissus, weren't always the crystal-clear reflections we have today. Early mirrors were often made of polished metal, bronze, silver, even obsidian. Imagine trying to get lost in that reflection. You'd probably just end up with a distorted, vaguely unsettling image of yourself. Maybe that would have saved Narcissus a lot of trouble. Just a thought. And get this, fringe history time. Some fringe historians, you know the type, the ones who also believe in Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, propose that the Narcissus myth isn't about vanity at all. They claim it's a coded allegory for the dangers of uncontrolled self-awareness. They say Narcissus wasn't just admiring his beauty. He was confronting his own mortality, his own insignificance in the grand scheme of the universe, and it drove him mad. Deep, right? A little too deep for bedtime, maybe. There's a scholarly debate that still rages about the actual flower that Narcissus transformed into. Was it a daffodil? A jonquil? Some other obscure bloom that's now extinct? Botanists have been arguing about it for centuries, and honestly, it's the kind of argument that makes you want to take a very long nap. Like a Narcissus-level nap. But back to the story, back to you. You are walking through a garden now, not unlike the one Narcissus might have frequented before. Well, you notice a small pond, the water still and reflective. You lean in, and you see yourself. But this time, you don't just see your face. You see the weariness in your eyes, the curve of your smile, the lines etched by laughter and worry. You see the echo within you, the part that longs to be heard, the part that wants to connect. And you see the Narcissus within you, the part that's sometimes too focused on its own reflection, too caught up in its own concerns. You take a deep breath. Maybe there's a little Echo and Narcissus in us all, a constant push and pull between wanting to express ourselves and wanting to be understood, between admiring our own strengths and acknowledging our own flaws. The key, perhaps, is balance. To speak our truth, yes, but also to listen. To see our own beauty, yes, but also to see the beauty in others. To cultivate empathy, to practice kindness, to remember that we're all just flawed humans, stumbling through this life together, trying to find our own reflection in the eyes of another. Think about Echo. Her curse wasn't just about being unable to speak freely. It was about being unable to initiate connection. She could only respond, only repeat. She was forever relegated to the role of an echo, a shadow, a constant reminder of what she had lost. And Narcissus? He was so consumed by his own image that he missed the opportunity for genuine connection. He was so busy admiring his reflection that he never bothered to look beyond the surface. He was, in a way, just as trapped as Echo, trapped by his own vanity, his own self-absorption. Remember how in the beginning we talked about the importance of names? Narcissus sounds similar to the Greek word for numbness. How very apt. So, as you drift off to sleep, remember Echo and Narcissus. Remember their flaws, their struggles, their tragic end. And remember that even in the most ancient of myths, there are lessons to be learned. Lessons about love, about listening, about the importance of seeing beyond the surface. And hey, if you wake up tomorrow and find yourself staring a little too long in the mirror, just remember Narcissus and his flower. Maybe, just maybe, that will be enough to snap you out of it. Or, just set a reminder on your phone. Whatever works. Sweet dreams. Sleep soundly, knowing gentle tales. Drift off to sleep with the whispers of ancient stories. And now, my friend, as the last embers of our story flicker low, it's time to let the gentle waves of sleep carry you away. You've wandered through sun-dappled groves with Echo, felt the sting of her unrequited love, and witnessed the tragic beauty of Narcissus's self-obsession. It's a lot, I know. Maybe a little too much for a Tuesday night. But hey, at least it wasn't Medusa turning people to stone. Talk about a stressful bedtime story. Think of the night sky above you, mirroring the dark, still pool where Narcissus saw his reflection. Imagine the stars as tiny echoes of the light that once shone in his eyes. You're lying there, safe and warm, far removed from the heartbreak and the hubris. Let the weight of the day melt away, like Echo fading into the very air around us. You might be thinking, wow, that was intense. And yeah, Greek myths can be a bit much. They're like the original reality TV, full of drama, betrayal, and questionable fashion choices. I mean togas? Really? But beneath the surface, there are always little nuggets of wisdom, little reminders of what it means to be human, or, a nymph. Consider Echo's fate. Reduced to a mere echo, a shadow of her former self. It's a potent symbol of the power of words, both spoken and unspoken. It reminds you to listen, really listen, to the people around you. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Hear their stories, acknowledge their feelings. Because everyone, even the chattiest nymph, deserves to be heard. Except maybe that one guy in your office who just keeps talking. You know the one. And Narcissus? Well, he's a cautionary tale against the dangers of self-obsession. It's okay to appreciate your own good qualities, of course. But don't let vanity blind you to the world around you. Don't get so caught up in your own reflection that you miss the beauty of a sunset, the kindness of a friend, or the subtle whisper of a woodland nymph trying to tell you she thinks you're cute. Now, about those ancient Greeks. They weren't just spinning yarns about lovesick nymphs and self-absorbed dudes. They were also incredibly influential in shaping Western civilization. Did you know that the ancient Greeks were pioneers in democracy, philosophy, and mathematics? Thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle laid the foundation for much of our modern thought. And Pythagoras? The guy who came up with the Pythagorean theorem? Yep, Greek too. So, next time you're struggling with geometry, you can thank or curse the ancient Greeks. On a slightly quirkier note, did you ever hear about the ancient Greek practice of ostracism? It wasn't about shunning someone on social media, although the principle is similar. In ancient Athens, citizens could vote to exile someone they considered a threat to democracy. The person with the most votes would be banished from the city for 10 years. Talk about a brutal popularity contest. Can you imagine if we did that today? Twitter would explode. And speaking of debates, historians still argue about the precise meaning and interpretation of many Greek myths. Were they simply entertaining stories? Allegorical tales designed to teach moral lessons? Or perhaps a way to explain natural phenomena in a pre-scientific world? The truth is, probably a little bit of all three. The beauty of these stories lies in their ambiguity, their ability to resonate with different people in different ways across centuries. Were they just trying to explain why the heck echoes happen? Or were they trying to tell us something deeper about love, loss, and the human condition? You get to decide. Remember how we talked about Hera and her, complicated relationship with Zeus? Well, that kind of marital discord wasn't exactly unique to the gods. In ancient Greece, marriage was often more of a political and economic arrangement than a love match. Women had limited rights and were largely confined to the domestic sphere. So, while the myths might romanticize love and passion, the reality for many Greek women was often quite different. It's a stark reminder that even in the golden age of Greece, life wasn't golden for everyone. And let's not forget the flowers. Narcissus, forever immortalized as a delicate, drooping flower. It's a poignant reminder of the ephemeral nature of beauty and the fleeting nature of life. But it's also a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of nature. Even in the face of tragedy, life finds a way to bloom. Just like that wildflower you saw poking through the sidewalk crack today. You're drifting now, aren't you? The weight of your eyelids growing heavier with each breath. The sounds of the world around you fading into a gentle hum. It's okay to let go, to surrender to the embrace of sleep. Think of Echo's voice, a whisper on the wind, carrying you to a place of peace and tranquility. Imagine yourself lying in a field of wildflowers, the sun warming your face, the gentle breeze rustling through the grass. You are surrounded by the beauty of nature, the echoes of ancient stories, and the promise of a new day. Remember the love of Echo, even in its unrequited form. Remember her patience, her willingness to simply be near the object of her affection. It's a reminder that love doesn't always have to be grand and dramatic. Sometimes, it's enough to simply care for someone, to offer them your support, to be a silent presence in their lives. It's the kind of love that doesn't demand attention, but simply is. And remember the lesson of Narcissus. Don't get so caught up in your own reflection that you forget to see the beauty in the world around you. Don't let vanity blind you to the needs of others. Be kind, be compassionate, and be open to the possibility of love. As you drift further into sleep, let these stories wash over you, soothing your mind and calming your spirit. Let the echoes of ancient Greece lull you into a peaceful slumber. You are safe. You are loved. You are worthy of rest. Close your eyes and dream. Dream of sun-drenched shores, whispering forests, and the gentle murmur of forgotten tales. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. And so, in the quiet stillness of the woods, Echo's voice continues to drift, a soft murmur carried on the breeze, a gentle susurrus through the leaves. It whispers secrets to the trees, sighs with the passing clouds, and remembers, always remembers, the beauty of Narcissus and the sorrow of unrequited affection. The flower that bears his name, the Narcissus, bows its head gracefully, as if still captivated by its own reflection in some unseen pool. It offers its delicate fragrance to the air, a subtle perfume that speaks of fragile beauty and the fleeting nature of all things. Imagine the soft petals, the gentle curve of the stem, the quiet stillness it brings to the meadow. Perhaps, as you drift closer to sleep, you might consider that there is a little echo and a little narcissus in us all. A part of us that yearns to be heard, to be seen, to be loved, and a part of us that can sometimes be a little too caught up, a little too focused on our own reflections, our own desires. But tonight, let those thoughts fade, like the last rays of sunlight over the Aegean Sea. Let the whispers of echoes soothe your mind, and the gentle fragrance of the narcissus lull you into a peaceful slumber. Let the story settle softly around you, a comforting blanket woven from ancient tales and forgotten dreams. Feel your breath deepen, your muscles relax, and your thoughts drift away like leaves on a gentle stream. Let go of the day and embrace the quiet magic of the night.